we're here at yet another year of the Coaches Show.
We're here.
Very excited. What the audience just saw is the new opener. And what I did is I took a bunch of the younger football players, by younger I'm talking about elementary school, running through the tunnel. To me, this is all about what it was. It's from the Glimpse of Gold that, you know, we keep having great senior classes graduate, but we have great kids coming up. And I think that's kind of what the legacy of this program is right now.
Absolutely.
And I was going to talk a lot about the Glimpse of Gold, but I think this goes right into dealing with weather. The Glimpse of Gold started it.
Right.
I was all excited. I had the camera equipment up, new scoreboard, and what happened?
Yeah, got lightninged out. So we have a saying in the program. We say that we don't work around the weather works on us. And then, you know, really there's just a handful of things that we have no, control over. One of them being lightning, obviously, that affected Glimpse of Gold. And then second is heat. And obviously we're going to follow, state protocols and FHS protocols and what OSSA wants us to do and all that kind of stuff. So it has been a hot button issue this week. Obviously temperatures are super, super hot. And so our trainer, Josh Wilson's done a fantastic job of keeping our kids safe and being vigilant of what those temperatures are. And so we've moved practices to mornings. Early morning practices, which is a first in the program. So we've been, at 6 a.m., which, it normally doesn't happen once school starts, but that's the only time available for us to be able to get our practice in and things like that. Kids have handled it extremely well. We've had 100% attendance. It's been really, really good. So, all that a little bit different this week, but we're going to find a way to get it in, regardless. But obviously everyone across the state is dealing with extreme temperatures, which is also why obviously we pushed kickoff back to 7:30.
Yeah, you've pushed kickoff back to 7:30. So let's talk a little bit about game night and temperatures and cramping and some of the things that might be a little bit different in this game, like timeouts for water breaks and things like that. So people watching the pregame, going to watch the game, they might understand a little extra timeouts and things. What are some of the protocols during game night that night?
Yeah, I think you touched on some of them. I mean, it's at the referee's discretion, so they can implement, kind of a game timeout during the game to allow players and the officials to hydrate. And that's something that kind of gets lost in the game is those guys are running almost as much as the kids are, and so just allow those guys to be able to rest and then make sure that it's everyone's first game. And everyone's maybe not as heat acclimatized as they would like to be. And so that will be a part of the game on Friday. And you mentioned cramping, and that's something that we try to prevent in our program and try to do a good job just by having our kids like what we call fire their central nervous system or their CNS many times throughout the week, so that during live action that's not the first time that you're doing that. And that's why a lot of times on the first games you do see a lot of cramps. And so hopefully that's not the case tonight for either team, but we do obviously take that into consideration with our nutrition plus how we're game planning and in our practice structure throughout the week to try to limit those as much as possible.
Okay.
But it is hot. That's our kids. It's hot for us, hot for them, hot for everyone, in attendance. And it is what it is. Back, I want to say back in the day, but really it's like a year ago, it was just a hot day. So you're practicing and it was hot and, and I don't, disagree with the new, protocols because obviously it's about player safety. You want to make sure that, we keep everybody safe. But, obviously, it used to just be August in Oklahoma. That's what you expect.
So, as a fan, we always focus on senior night. Oh, these seniors are so great. We had some great seniors.
Absolutely.
But, of course, the beauty of high school is every year you have to build a new team.
Right.
But we know some of these familiar faces. Talk to me about some of these leaders that stepped up. They're now seniors or stepped up to a leadership position. And then we got some juniors that are not just going to have a little bit of time. They're going to be playing all game long.
Absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit about what we can see out there. And I know, I'm going to bring it up right now, we graduated a quarterback. And so everybody's worried about it. The news is worried about it. Tell us a little bit about some of those positions.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, we have a huge amount of leaders. We've lost some great leaders. We've gained some lot leaders. But to me, if you are a great leader, you're not only a great leader this year, you're developing future leaders. And I think that's what we've tried to do a good job of in the program. And our past leaders have done a good job, and that's really their legacy is passing those leadership skills on to the younger players. And so once those younger players turn, you kind of just keep reloading. And I said on the show before, I think one of the hardest things to do in sports is go from losing to winning, because if you've always lost, the kids have nothing to look at and go, hey, this is how you get it done. But fortunately, with our kids coming to our program right now, as you mentioned, from youth league on up, is like they see guys doing it the right way. They see how to practice correctly. They see how to be a great teammate. They see how to be a great leader, and then that breeds more leadership. And so, we've done something a little bit different this year. I felt like we had a lot of leaders. And so, what we've done internally with the program is we formed what's called a leadership council, and that council is made up of 20 players. And so we have, a group of 20 players that were selected by their teammates and voted on to represent, proper leadership and all those kind of things. And so a lot of those decisions are handled through those guys. And as you mentioned, a lot of them are seniors. A lot of them are underclassmen, familiar faces this year, and obviously I don't want to get a deal because I'll leave some guys out, but on the defense side of the ball that we've seen before, Drake Fitro, Austin Hubert, Marcus McGrew, Bastida, I can go on and on. Bustle, we have Easton Costa, we have Brayden and the juniors, we have Braven McConnells, we have Nate Kiefer on the offensive side, Hayden Mounts, guys like that, and I can keep going and on. Offensively, Jaden Millsap, a bunch of guys that provide great leadership, Jace Robinson, and so I felt like it's hey, we didn't have 4 guys or 6 guys or 8 guys. I felt like we had, I thought the number would be around 18, that the cutoff would be when kids voted, and it was 20, and so that's not surprising, but we have that, and so. We lean heavy on those guys for decision making. I meet with those guys every day with the leadership council. We talk about gave them the decision. Hey, when do we want to practice, mornings or late at night? Which would you prefer? How do we do that? From that to what we wear on Fridays and all those kind of things, and lean on that. And that's a huge part is just trying to develop that leadership. And as you mentioned with the young guys, I love we'll have the young guys at the games. They run out the tunnel with us. They warm up with us. They're in the locker room with us at halftime. Those guys, they run the same system and all those things. And I think that's what's really, really cool about Choctaw football and just, being a big, small town is you can just continue to breed that next generation every single year. And obviously, you'll have a flux in talent, from year to year, but we never want to have a flux in what the standard of the program is, and that's the gold standard every year.
Well, you named so many names there. I don't think we graduated anybody because I
we graduated some really good ones.
I remember all those names from last year,
right.
And they're back for another year, and so another year of experience.
Graduated some really good ones.
Let's transition into the game tonight with Dell City. Mm-hmm. Last year was kind of a heartbreaker,
right?
And it kind of stung, and I think we worked and used that for the rest of the motivation throughout the rest of the season to rise above whatever is called on the field, whatever happens on the field. Right. We're not in control of whatever is called against us or for us, but our job is to make sure that that we're better and above that. So let's talk about tonight's game with Dell City, kind of maybe a revenge game, maybe not. I know you used to be there, and what's the game plan going into tonight, and what do we know about Dell City?
Yeah, it's first of all, it's game one, and that's what I stress to our kids. It's game one, and regardless of the outcome, if you win, you're not as good as you probably think you are, and if you lose, you're probably not as bad as you think you are. And I think that goes for both sides. And so, I like scheduling tough opponents early in the season. I'd rather find out things really, really quickly. I have a lot of respect for Dell City and their program. Obviously, I've had a lot of former players that I've coached at Dell City and still in contact with, and and have a great deal of respect for that program, what it did for me earlier in my career. None of that stuff matters. None of that stuff factors in. It's a game. You're trying to test yourself against a real quality opponent. Some people have 1 or 2 in 5A, depending on what poll you're looking at. Very talented group, very well coached. And so we're looking to just to try to obviously execute well. And I feel like the team that executes well, the best in game one typically wins. And so it's from our perspective, if you have, 100% great play executed at 70%, it's better for me to have a 70% good play executed at 100%, if that makes sense. And so, because you're going to be, you're going to be inexperienced in some areas, some guys are going to get their first start on both sides of the ball, and so really it's always the team that turns the ball over less, limits the most mistakes, get the most explosive plays, limits penalties, normally has a chance to win those close games. And so obviously that's kind of our game plan going in is, we want to play clean. That's what we've been talking about all week. Just play clean in this game. You're going to make mistakes, but we're trying to make less mistakes than normal. And so if we can do that, we feel like we have a chance, and then as always, get 11 hats to the ball and, play really extremely hard, on defense and offense, which is, kind of a pillar of our program, and rely on effort, and typically we'll have a chance. But, great deal of respect for Dell City. It's, I'm glad that they're playing us, so we can get our test that we need and be able to put some stuff on film, some teachable moments and stuff like that as we keep going.
Talk about the facility that when I showed up to beginning at school, it was a totally different facility.
Right.
We got brand new stands in the end zone.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm excited about that because we're going to put the band in the end zone. And so, like, when we score a touchdown in that end zone, they'll be playing, like, right in the ear of our players the fight song.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about that. There's some other things going on. I don't think we want to reveal all of it. You got to come to a game this year. You have to come to a game this year. It is well deserved. I feel like all these programs deserve what we're getting, thanks to all the people that voted for the bond issues with all the new school stuff.
Bond dollars at work.
I mean, I'm excited about the new school, and I'm excited about the new facilities.
Absolutely.
And everybody's kind of dealing with it. So with your assistant athletic director hat, softball, they're having to deal with some extra stuff. What's going on with the softball field? What's going on? Tell us a little bit about that.
Softball, baseball. Obviously it's going to be too much. It's fit to the show, but in a nutshell, softball, baseball getting huge upgrades from dugouts to turf. Will be like an enormous benefit for us. Obviously on the field upgrades that you kind of mentioned, you'll see a brand new video board, which just adds a ton. 500-ish seats in the south end zone now, so we've added capacity. Brand new track surface, fixing a lot of the turf issues that we had, painted goalposts, irrigation. The deal that I'm excited about, a walkway around the north side, so like now we don't have to enter the field for any reasons. New fencing around, some concrete work that needed to be done, just like 1,000 little bitty fences or fixes that we needed to have happen. And on top of that, new lights, which you'll see tonight, which are the RGB lights, which are the same ones that you'll see, if I go to an OU game or a big time college game, you can turn them off and on, they can do the light show, all that kind of stuff. Brand new audio system, sounds wonderful. If you've been there. And so just a million little bitty changes that make a huge difference, and I think just add so much. And I find myself sometimes during practice when I'm staring off, into the south end, I'm like, this doesn't look like the same stadium. You look off there to the south, and now we have a giant video board with the bleachers and all those kind of things. You're like, man, this is like, it just seems like, such a more collegiate, style to our stadium. And I've always loved Bill Jensen Stadium. It's hard to replicate just how it's laid out, into the hill and all that stuff, and what we call Death Valley, named from the kids a couple of years ago. Traditionally pretty good at home, and they like the little valley and all that stuff. And so it just gives it a great look. And, and as you mentioned, the new high school being built, construction everywhere. And it's like everyone's having to deal with some kind of inconveniences because of that bond construction, but it's so worth it, once you see it come to fruition and played out. And it's like, man, it's just really, really nice.
Well, all the hard work from last November forward, all the summer, everything comes together tonight as you step out on the field. And what's some of your final words to the players tonight?
Yeah, just kind of what I said. Play clean. Go play gold standard effort. That's a non-negotiable. We talk about all the time. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be put in a situation where you may not have rep this or have the answer to it, or because you may be new. But as long as your effort is great, you can only overcome a lot of those obstacles and overcome a lot of those, inexperienced, plays during a game. And so, go play our style of ball, play clean, do it for a long period of time, and normally good things happen with it. But as I mentioned earlier, regardless of outcomes, you win, you're not as good as you think you are, and if you lose, you're not as bad as you think you are. We're somewhere in between. Non-district games are non-district for a reason. We're trying to get, play our best ball by, the time we start district, and then we always say by week 11, which is the first round of the playoffs, like we want to be going full bore on week 11, and historically in this program, we're playing our best ball at the end of the year, not the beginning of the year. And I think that's a testament to our kids and coaches always improving and getting better as the year goes on.
All right. Well, I do want to stress that you have to come out, because to one of these games this year, you have to come out. What I've been seeing, and this morning was the most beautiful thing I've seen. I saw the football team finishing up. I saw the band running laps, getting ready. They're all getting ready for Friday night.
Yep.
We got the cheerleaders, we got dance, we got ROTC, we got probably 1,000 students involved in just Friday night.
Absolutely.
And Friday Night Lights is all about the school
and the community.
All
absolutely.
these programs, the community, gold standard.
And you mentioned all the construction. Come early.
Come early.
And stay late, because getting in and out and finding a parking space maybe your biggest challenge of the night.
And you may want to have some comfortable shoes.
That's absolutely
good
right.
for walking.
But there's plenty of room once you get in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we'll have more to talk about next week
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
And until next week, stay classy, Choctaw.